One.
All right, we're back at it again with the show Turn It Down. Thanks so much for tuning in to your show on sports news, particularly focused on the NFL. You know, Bros Brought Out, talk about sports news. Here we are bringing it to you. This is our second show. So, John, how you been doing?
Been doing good. Been waiting for this all week. Been writing stats down. Been following NFL news. This has been on my mind every single day. Been looking forward to it, and so happy it's Friday.
Oh yeah. I've been looking forward to it all week. It has been a good time. It's been fun. It's been a long week, but I'm ready to talk with you about sports. So let's start with the news around the league. So we saw this week the Bucks chose to bring back Ndamukong Suh on a 1-year, $8 million deal. How do you feel about that one?
I think it's a good move by the Buccaneers, even though Ndamukong Suh, he's entering his 12th year in the NFL. His production has slightly decreased. If you look last year, only 2.5 sacks, but he plays the defensive tackle position, and the defensive tackle position isn't known for gaining a ton of sacks. What their main job is to plug up the middle of those A and B gaps. I think he's done a great job of that for them. I mean, if you look, the Buccaneers were number 1 against the rush last year, and I think Ndamukong Suh was a big piece of that. Along with Pierre-Paul over there, I think it's a good idea to keep this defense together with the addition of Tom Brady on offense.
Yeah, I think it is a good signing. And $8 million, I mean, D tackles could go more expensive than that. I mean, even looking at what Michael Pierce got with the Vikings, I think Ndamukong Suh can bring a little bit more. So I think Ndamukong Suh is definitely a 1-year, $8 million deal. Sounds like a good fit for him.
Mm-hmm. Ndamukong Suh, he also faced 261 double team blocks last year. That was the third most in the NFL. So he's attracting a lot of attention. It's going to allow the DNs and linebackers to get some one-on-ones or even a couple free rushes to the quarterbacks at times.
Yeah, I mean he is a monster of a human. You know, over 300 pounds. So. I mean, he's the type of guy I would want as in the middle of my defense. So, I mean, he definitely, I think, is great to be in there.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. Moving on to the next one. What else? What other news do we have this week?
Well, one acquisition that really kind of puzzled me a little bit was Robbie Anderson signing a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Carolina Panthers. You go ahead and share your first thoughts on that, and then I can take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little expensive. I think 2-year, $20 million deal. I mean, I don't think Robbie Anderson is quite worth that money. I think maybe they got into a bidding war with someone. Not really sure. But if I had to put out a stat line prediction from him. I think he will get a lot of targets in that offense. I think Teddy Bridgewater will be throwing the ball, 20, 25 times a game. And I think he will get a lot of targets. I think he's probably, hopefully in the 700, 800-yard range. I don't see him getting much more over that. They've got so much the offense runs through McCaffrey, and, he gets up there in his receiving yards too. So, I mean, I think it's a good fit in terms of the speed, but it's definitely not really where I saw him landing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, 700 to 800 yards, I think that's a good prediction. I mean, when you look at him in 2019, 52 receptions for 779 yards and 2 touchdowns, nothing that really jumps out on the stat sheet when you look at it. 2-year, $20 million deal. I mean, I could maybe see it with a team that definitely wasn't the Panthers. But, I mean, it might be a good compliment for DJ Moore. When you look at his stats from last year, 87 catches, 1,175 yards. I mean, that's a solid number 1 for the Carolina Panthers. He's had some trouble fumbling in the past, but he's come a long way from there. He's entering his 3rd year in the NFL. I think beginning signs for the Carolina Panthers looked like they were going to rebuild, but as free agency has gone on, it looks like that's far from their mind right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it looks like they're trying to do their best to put their coaching their new head coach into a position to succeed. I mean, giving him the QB he wants. And, I think they're doing their best to put Teddy Bridgewater in an opportunity to succeed. Really going out there, getting him a receiver. One of the only ones that was really on the market this year. And I think him and DJ Moore, they definitely might. They'll be sort of middle of the pack 1-2 this year. They're not the best in the league, but I definitely think they'll be productive.
Yep, definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we'll move on to the next topic. Do we want to go into our top 10 power rankings, or do we want to save that for later in the show?
Let's go with our winners and losers of free agency.
Cool. Yep. So we'll go with one winner and one loser for free agency. So do you want to take this one first, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, so I could take this one. I've been looking at that. I've got a couple, so maybe I'll give you a couple more. But one team that they get a lot of hate, and I'm sometimes the first to throw it. But one team that's actually done pretty well in free agency, they got to pay their man. But I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys, and I sort of like what they've done in free agency. They went out there, they got Dontari Poe. That's a great, we were just talking about Ndamukong Suh. That's a great defensive tackle in the middle of the field. They went out, they got Gerald McCoy to rush from the interior. They've already got DeMarcus Lawrence on the outside. Maybe if we saw a Michael Bennett reunion there, then they have the D-line taken care of. And even to bring some guys back on one-year deals, I think Sean Lee was one of them. I think one of their offensive linemen they brought back on a one-year deal. So they're definitely not entering into rebuild phase. I think those one-year deals will definitely pay off for them long-term. They've got Amari Cooper locked up for 5 years. And even the extension they gave to their tight end, Blake Jarwin, I was surprised to see Jason Witten go. But, Blake Jarwin giving them that 3-year extension. And Clinton Dix. I think he has been productive in the past, sort of been a journeyman for a little bit. But I think they've had so much safety trouble. I think Clinton Dix will be a guy who knows how to play the position for them.
This is pretty ironic.
I don't think they're the winner, but
yeah. I had the Cowboys on my losing list for this free agency.
Oh, man.
And let me tell you why. It's not more of because what they lost, but more of how they added what they already had. When you look at the deal with Amari Cooper, a 5-year, $100 million deal, that's a big investment. He's 25 years old, so he's still young. He still has 5 years left. But when you decide to give that money to Amari Cooper and then expect Dak Prescott to just sit back and be okay with the franchise tag, that's not going to fly over. There's talks now of him skipping OTAs, of him not showing up to any type of training camp. They're still in some type of talks trying to get a deal. But until that happens, that quarterback is not happy. And if you look at the year Dak Prescott is coming off of, he threw for 4,902 yards last year. That's a lot. Amazing. That's a good amount of numbers. He threw 30 touchdowns and he threw 11 interceptions. Those are all very solid numbers of a really top-tier quarterback. So to go out and sign Amari Cooper to this big deal, who, in my opinion, has been relatively inconsistent at times in Dallas, especially when it comes to playing in bad weather games. If you watch the Patriots Dallas game that was in Gillette, Amari Cooper was a no-show. We did not see him the entire game. He was on the field, but he barely did a single thing. And there were a couple other games like that. He padded his stats against games that really weren't as viable for the Cowboys at times. And that's one reason that I think the Cowboys were losers. They went out and signed Sean Lee, who's 33 years old. He's had hamstring injuries. He's missed a ton of games over the past few years. And do you know how many sacks Sean Lee recorded last year? One sack for the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. That's not going to cut it. I do like the signing of Clinton Dix. I think that's a really nice replacement for the backfield, especially when you're trying to replace Jeff Heath, who didn't even record a single interception last year. I like that. You lose Byron Jones, Byron Jones didn't record any interceptions. I'm not too worried about that. I think the Dolphins kind of overpaid for him, even though it's a good acquisition for the Dolphins. And the Dolphins have money to spend anyway. But you also lose Randall Cobb, who was a really good number 2 wide receiver for the Cowboys, who really allowed Amari Cooper to get open at times. Without him there, I just don't see any more viable threats that the Cowboys have. And I think it's very easy to double team. Last, I'll go through this quickly, but Gerald McCoy, 32 years old. I like that deal. I think he's going to be a good acquisition for the Cowboys. Dante Poe, we don't know the contract details yet. He's 29 years old. He had 4 sacks, 22 tackles, but he only played 36% of total snaps last year, which kind of concerns me. But we'll see what happens.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to the Amari Cooper thing. And just touch on, he definitely does have the chance to disappear in games, but, I love what they've done with him. I think they, when Amari Cooper was in Oakland, Las Vegas, I don't know which one it was at the time, but when Amari Cooper was over there for the Raiders, he was sort of playing second fiddle to Michael Crabtree. Michael Crabtree was sort of in the decline at that point. And then, the Cowboys to go out and trade a first-round pick for him and then let him go be the number 1 and create some separation. I mean, I think Amari Cooper will, they want to replace what they had in Des Bryant when he was in his best form. So I don't mind that deal anymore. They got to pay Dak Prescott. That's true. If I'm him, I would not skip out. I would show up because his contract, if he plays well this year, his contract is only going to go up and up and up, where he can get a deal higher than Russell Wilson next year, but he's got to sign the tag first. He might not be happy with it, but he's got to sign it. We didn't talk about Greg Zuerlein. The Greg Zuerlein, I don't know what the Rams are doing not signing him, but Greg Zuerlein, they got a kicker now.
Yep, that's a good kicker. Yep, that is a good kicker. But I would ask you this. You think Amari Cooper has 5 good years left in him? 5,000-plus yard seasons?
I think maybe so. I think the Cowboys did a good thing. And Sean Lee, he doesn't have to be the number 1 linebacker anymore. They've got Leighton Vander Esch, who's been balling for the past 2 years. They've got Jalen Smith in there. So Sean Lee doesn't have to be the guy. I sort of like what they're doing, but Cowboys are always a mystery.
$60 million guaranteed for Amari Cooper. That's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
And if you look at the stats when he was in Oakland compared to Dallas, they've declined a bit. And without Randall Cobb, I just don't know how it's going to work out. There might be some frustrations on offense come this season. We'll see.
Do the Cowboys win the NFC East next year?
See, the NFC East is the most unpredictable division in all of football. I'll take the I'll give it to the Cowboys this year, but don't count out the Eagles.
I'm giving the Cowboys 11-5 NFC East champions.
11-5. I'll give them 10-6.
All right. Who's your free agency winner?
My free agency winner is a team I don't think many people would think of a free agency winner, but when you look at the moves they've made, I think they're a free agency winner. The Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins didn't give up anyone this offseason.
They didn't have anyone to give up.
That's true. That's maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick, but yeah, no one again. You sign a good offensive lineman in Eric Flowers, who's 25 years old, a 3-year, $30 million deal. You sign Jordan Howard, a pretty solid running back.
Very productive back.
I think he's a very productive back. A 2-year, $9.75 million deal. That's not too bad for a running back, And he only played in 10 games last year, but he rushed for 525 yards and he averaged 4.4 yards a carry. I'll take that on my team. Thank you very much.
Always been a very productive guy. I don't really know why he was on the trading block to begin with.
Yeah.
I think the Bears think they have a little bit more in Tariq Cohen than they really do.
Yep. And then Miami, we were just talking about this guy, but they went and got Byron Jones from Dallas. Did they overpay for this a bit? I think so. A 5-year, $82.5 million deal for a guy who didn't record a single interception last year. Now, he's a good cornerback, don't get me wrong, and he's a good asset for the Dolphins. I just don't know if he's worth that type of money. But, I mean, like I said, the Dolphins had money to spend. You go out and you get Emmanuel Ogbah on the 2-year, $15 million deal. You get Kyle Van Noy on a 4-year, $51 million deal. That's a little much considering he's 29 years old. He had 6.5 sacks last year, 57 tackles, which are both solid numbers. We'll see. We've seen a trend where the talent in New England, when players leave, it doesn't tend to transfer over. We'll see what happens with this one.
Yep. We'll see what happens.
And then they went and got Shaq Lawson, who's 25 years old from the Buffalo Bills, who is a productive, nice edge rusher, or you can really fill him in many different places along the line. 3-year, $30 million deal from Buffalo, 6.5 sacks last year, 32 tackles. How about you? Who's your winner? And you can take your take on what I just had to say.
Well, I like the Dolphins, and I like what they've done there. I feel like they went out and they signed good football players. I mean, Shaq Lawson, good defensive lineman. You know, whether stats are there, he's always seems to be around the ball, hot pursuit. You know, always chase. You know, extends the play. You know, following through, making sure he's really just got a high motor. I love Emmanuel Ogbah, sort of, you know, had a couple years with the Browns there, but I think Emmanuel Ogbah, you know, they're just going out and signing good football players. You know, we see the same thing with Matt Patricia wanting to take on former Patriots, so we'll see how that goes.
Yep. But,
you know, Kyle Van Noy might end up being a good one for him.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I like the Dolphins. One team that I think might be a loser, and, you know, time will only show sort of how this works out. But I think if Stephon Diggs goes out and plays really well this year, I think the Vikings are a big free agency loser. They have been very quiet in free agency. They signed a defensive tackle and franchised their safety, and that's just about it. And traded away their you know, one, you know, they've had sort of 2 number 1 receivers there for the past 2 years, but they've traded away their number 1 receiver, and they got a lot of draft capital. But Vikings they got some work to do. At least one of their corners.
Yeah, they just lost Xavier Rhodes today. Actually, he signed a 1-year, $5 million deal with the Colts. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that take. A relatively quiet team in free agency, but I think they're comfortable where they are. I think they feel like they still are a good contender in the NFC. I think they I think they still feel they have a good chance to win the NFC North, especially competing with Green Bay. Like I've said, Green Bay is the king of that division. They always seem to be, and trying to get on top of them is tough. But we'll see how Adam Thielen responds, being the sole number 1 of that team.
Yeah.
Kyle Rudolph, I believe he's still with them. He's going to have to step up a bit. And Dalvin Cook, we'll see what we know what he can do in the running game. We'll see maybe what he can do in the passing game this year as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. So those are most of my winners. I like what the Las Vegas Raiders are doing. You know, they have, you know, went out and signed Corey Littleton. I think they've been trying to – John Gruden likes to have a good couple middle of the field type linebacker players, and so signing Corey Littleton, I think that's someone he's been looking for a little bit. Eli Apple, you know, had a couple good years there with the Giants. I think Eli Apple is a good fit for them in their secondary. Gary Connolly never worked out, so Eli Apple there, and Carl Nassib coming over from the Bengals. I think that's a great signing. I like what the Las Vegas Raiders are doing.
Yeah. I also like Marcus Mariota coming over too, being the backup quarterback there. I think that's a good solid backup quarterback to have as an asset.
Yeah, I like that he said, you know, it's Derek Carr's team, but we know he's hungry. Yeah, I'm excited to see that battle.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
So that's our winners and losers. Now, here's the question that we've all been wondering about. We got to talk about our man, the Cam. We got to talk about our man, Cam Newton. Cam Newton.
You see those workout videos?
QB. I did not see the workout videos.
Oh boy. If you get a chance, go take a look. He's looking.
I saw a little foreshadowing, I think, on Instagram as to what I think is a good fit. I see
Mm-hmm.
he's been working out with Tyrod Taylor, throwing the rock around with him. I'd love
Mm-hmm.
to see them actually unite together. I was actually, I was thinking about this last week. We mentioned, I mentioned loving to see Joe Flacco end up in LA with the Chargers, and I was thinking about it, and I realized back in 2012, who was the backup for Joe Flacco? Tyrod Taylor, back on the Ravens. So I was just thinking about that and thinking, wouldn't that be a fun reunion for them both to be across the country competing for a starting job?
Yeah.
But I think Cam Newton, I saw a little foreshadowing as to what I thought was foreshadowing. But tell me, where do you think Cam Newton will be for the 2020 season?
Well, I have 3 teams where I think Cam Newton could end up. One's LA. I think he could end up with the Chargers. Even though Anthony Lynn, I think, has a lot of confidence in Tyrod Taylor because he knows the system right now. I still think he could go in there and compete for a starting job. I think New England is also a very viable option for many reasons. So I even have to explain myself why. I mean, you want Brian Hoyer.
No, you don't.
You want Brian Hoyer being your starting quarterback day one? I mean, I don't think – yeah. But my third team is a very interesting team. I think Cam Newton could go into Buffalo and compete for a starting job with Josh Allen.
Whoa.
And I'm gonna tell you why.
Whoa.
John McDermott coached Cam Newton in Carolina. They were both together in Carolina to start. So they already have a good relationship. Wow. They already like each other. Christian, would you consider Josh Allen to be more of a game manager, or would you consider him to be like a very good – how would you describe him? Elite quarterback?
I would describe him as a gunslinger. He's got he's in that Ben Roethlisberger mold. He likes to run a little bit, get himself hurt. He sometimes actually does have to sit out some games, the concussion protocol, or tweaks his ankle a little bit. So he runs around a little too much, but he's a gunslinger. Yeah.
Do you know how many yards Josh Allen threw for last year? 3,089 yards. That's I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a game manager to me. That was 23rd in the NFL. Like, I mean, okay, 58.8% completion percentage. Once again, okay. Yeah, he rushed for 510 yards. Do you know how many times this man fumbled the football last year? He fumbled the ball 14 times.
Wow, that's a lot.
And he lost 10. So okay, yeah, he's running, but he's turning the ball over. He had 20 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions. That's not bad. He had 8 rushing touchdowns, not bad. So overall, touchdown to turnover ratio 28-19. I wouldn't say that's necessarily great. I mean, I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's maybe something that can maybe push you through the playoffs,
Well, as our friends like to say, I mean, playoffs, baby. I mean, Josh Allen, he got him to the playoffs.
He got him to the playoffs. But the thing is, Cam Newton's played in the Super Bowl.
That's true.
It's true. And Cam Newton has a lot more experience than Josh Allen. But another few things. I feel the Bills' defense carried the Bills' offense last year. And even though Josh Allen got a lot,
certainly did.
But because, if you look at this Bills' defense, they were 4th against the pass. That's really good, and they were 10th against
that defense carried them.
That defense was 2nd overall in the NFL. That's a really good defense. And yet, everyone in Buffalo just loves Josh Allen. I'm not on here to say Josh Allen isn't a good quarterback, or deserves to be benched or anything. But do I think Cam Newton can come in and maybe compete for a starting job? Say if Buffalo starts off maybe 1-2, 1-3. I think some people might start to look towards the bench if Cam Newton's on there, and see what he's got after that foot surgery. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I think man. The defense definitely did carry Buffalo. There were times, it's particularly in the games against the Patriots where the offense was getting shut down. Offenses were just shut down. It was just defense.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll just get to the fourth quarter and it'd just be like, wow, Buffalo is still in this game. Like the defense just kept them in there. So, I mean, that defense was phenomenal last year. They played lights out. I think there's a lot of love for Josh Allen in Buffalo. I think it's interesting. I don't think as much as the Bills might not actually be as committed to Josh Allen as we might think, they have built a team a little bit around him, and sort of the receivers they've gotten that are more guys that can get open because Cole Beasley, he's got some niftiness to him. John Brown's such a speedster. Stephon Diggs, creates good separation. I think they've got guys that they're trying to give Josh Allen wide open windows because of the accuracy problems. And so I think Cam Newton might actually need a similar thing, but he's sort of had a lot more bigger bodies in the past with Greg Olsen and Devin Funchess being a little bit bigger. I think that the Bills have built around Josh Allen, but it'd be a fun thing to see.
I mean, I'm just saying, if the Bills go out and take him as a backup quarterback and things don't get off to a great start, I could definitely see some, maybe a possible change at quarterback come week 5 or week 6. But that's if they start off bad. The Bills might be just fine. But we'll see what happens. It's just a little bit of a interesting scenario, I think, that could happen if they did go out and get.
Yeah.
Also, one more stat: Bills were 26th in passing last year. 26th.
That's not great. Yeah. Well, if I'm Cam Newton, and if you're listening, Cam Newton, then I would wait out if I were you. I think if I'm Cam Newton, there is no rush to sign with the team. And I think if I'm, if I was Cam Newton, I would just wait it out and see if there's a training camp injury or maybe a preseason injury. One of these guys goes down, maybe I don't know, a team that's only got sort of one QB sort of on their roster. We saw Jimmy Garoppolo go down, and the 49ers weren't really able to salvage that season in 2018 too much, even though they did find a nice backup in Nick Mullins. But if I was Cam Newton, I would just wait around. No rush to sign unless the Chargers come knocking. But I'd just wait around and see, and then offer your services.
Yeah. I think he's on a bit of a revenge mission right now after Carolina, kind of gave him the boot out the door. I don't think he's very happy, and I think he's looking forward to the season to proving that he still got it.
Yeah. Former top player in the NFL. Yeah, that's an exciting one.
Yeah.
All right, so to wrap us out, let's compare our top 10 team power rankings at this point in the off season. So I've got my list here. And there might be some surprises on it, but I'll defend them. I'll go through mine, and then you can go through yours, and then we can.
Do we both want to
talk about
how? Do we want to both list number 10, and then we can go number 9, number 8? Do we want to do it that way, or do we just want to go?
Let's go from 1.
Oh, let's go from 1. Okay. All right.
Let's go from 10. Let's go from 10.
Okay. Let's go from 10.
So coming in at number 10 for me. This might come as a surprise. I've got the New England Patriots. Some people might want to hear them lower, but I know better than to put the New England Patriots lower than number 10.
Yeah, that's smart.
I say never sleep on the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick knows what he's doing, and Jarrett Stidham. I think he's gonna try to. He's got some big shoes to fill. But I think, him and N'Keal Harry. We didn't see enough of N'Keal Harry last year, but they've got a chance to be one of the better young QB wide receiver duos in the league. And I think if they choose to go with Jarrett Stidham as their QB, I think the Patriots know what they're doing, and I think it would be very reasonable for them to be the top 10 best teams in the league.
Yeah, for me at number 10, I have the Buffalo Bills. You
Okay.
got like we just discussed, I think you have a decent quarterback in Josh Allen. You have a really good wide receiving core there in Buffalo. You got a good defense. We'll see how everything works out there, but I got Buffalo at 10.
Nice. Now coming in at number 9, I've got the Green Bay Packers. I think I think the Green Bay Packers are just a team that's pretty overrated a lot of the time, but somehow they find a way to get it done. And even though there might be holes on offense, defense, holes all over the place, Aaron Rodgers always has a way of making them competitive. I think number 9 is a good spot for them at this point. They haven't done a whole lot this offseason, signed a couple linebackers. But the Green Bay Packers, number 9.
Yeah, I like that take. Number 9 for me, I got the Tennessee Titans. You got the signing of Ryan Tannehill. You got Derrick Henry in the backfield. You got an okay wide receiving core, and you got a decent defense. And you're coming off a year where you made it to the AFC Championship. Not necessarily believing they can repeat that this year right now, but I still think they're a top 10 team.
Nice. I like that. I like that. We'll see where they land on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8, we got a team that you mentioned already. I've got the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bills are doing everything they can to make Josh Allen succeed. And I think they're just a little bit of a step ahead above the Packers and the Patriots, just in terms of the moves they made this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, Buffalo Bills coming in at number 8.
Yeah. Number 8 for me, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow.
I got Ben Roethlisberger coming back. I got Bud Dupree and T.J. Watt, and that defense on the other side of the football that really played magnificent last year. It was a miracle we went 8-8. And now with Roethlisberger back, he says he's the healthiest he's been in a long time. I think Juju has a bounce back year. I think James Washington comes out and plays well. And I think Vance McDonald and Eric Ebron are going to make a good tight end duo.
That's a good tight end.
We'll see how it works out.
Steelers don't make my top 10. They've got a lot to prove. Knocked out of the playoffs and sort of the final weeks of the season in the past 2 years. I think they're around the teens for me. But I see why you could put them at number 8. But yeah, they're definitely not on my top 10. They coming in at number 7 for me. I've got the Tennessee Titans, and I got them at number 7 because this team proved it in the playoffs, going into Foxborough, going into Baltimore, and winning handily against. I mean, the Patriots sort of came down to the end, but they won both those games. They were in control, and I think if they had gotten Tom Brady 12 as their quarterback, I think that they could definitely have a shot to be in the top 5.
Yeah.
I'd love to see them go injury-free, hopefully. And I think if they do, we'll see some exciting playoff games for them again next year.
Yeah. Yeah, good take, yeah. For 7 for me, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Yep. I believe Kirk Cousins kind of has that can't win in big games, like brushed off his shoulders a little bit after last year. I think Adam Thielen's going to have a decent year. He's still really young and healthy. Dalvin Cook. Kyle Rudolph is still productive. You get rid of Xavier Rhodes, who I think was more of a liability at this point on the defensive side of the ball. A team that made the playoffs last year, I see them right back in the thick of things this year.
I could see the Vikings doing what their rival the Packers did a couple years ago, drafting cornerbacks in the first and second round. I could see them doing that this year. And they're in a good position in the draft to potentially get a good guy there.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 6 for me, I've got them high. I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Wow.
TB, Tom Brady, Tampa Bay. If the Bucs don't draft a running back in the first or second round, I will probably lose my mind because they are in prime position too, and there's some guys that could really help them out with that offense. I think they've got I think that defense, that D-line in particular, but I think that, James Winston couldn't hold on to the ball for them, but Tom Brady can. And I think that offense is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think Tampa Bay is a top 12 team right now. I think the over-under has them at 9 wins right now. But that could definitely change depending on what happens in the draft, and I could definitely see them, being right up there in the thick of things this year.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it'll be really tough for them to upset the Saints.
Mhm.
But, I think the Panthers have a little bit of catching up to do. We'll see how Teddy Bridgewater does. It's just a little bit of an unknown. But I think, they're in competition, hopefully, to win the division. But if not, they should be in a prime position for a wild card spot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, number 6 for me, I got the Green Bay Packers, mainly because Aaron Rodgers, I just feel he's an elite quarterback. He's still got it. I don't think he's a great leader necessarily, but his skill level is out the roof. Does he have the best talent around him? No, but he just always seems to be able to carry that team and keep his team in the game and give them a chance to win. And they got a great fan base up there in Green Bay. So number 6 for the Packers for me.
All right. Well, give me your 4. Give me your 5, 4, and 3, because I think this could get a little interesting. And then 2 and 1, I think we know. But
yeah. Well, I don't know. But so my 5 is the New Orleans Saints. My 4 is the 49ers, and my 3 is the Ravens.
Okay. Interesting. Mm-hmm. All right, so we got a little bit of a different order here. I've actually got Seattle Seahawks at 5.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the Baltimore Ravens at 4, and I'll tell you a little bit about why I got the Ravens at 4, and the New Orleans Saints at 3.
Okay. So a little bit of a different order, but I'm surprised you have the Ravens at 4.
Yeah. So man, the Ravens trading away players before contracts are finalized. Mm-hmm. Not a move that Ozzie Newsome would have made. Yeah. I think just shows a little bit of an inexperienced GM move there, even though Eric DeCosta has done some great things in getting these extensions done early. But, man, defensive ranking takes a hit for that move. Ozzie Newsome wouldn't have done it. It would have been a much smarter way to go about that. It's really sad to see Michael Brockers go away to a different team. So I think one thing that will be interesting to see, maybe the Ravens shift their philosophy here a little bit. I hope that potentially, the market for a couple D tackles, there's a couple good guys on the market. Derek Wolfe, is one, maybe Shelby Harris, 2 guys that might fit. But I think maybe they go out and try to sign a guy like Everson Griffin or Clay Matthews, try to get their outside linebacker defensive end position locked up, and then go for interior in the draft when it was more expected they would go for a pass rusher. And then that would give them time to develop Jalen Ferguson, who they drafted in the 3rd round last year. So I think hopefully I would love to see their mindset shift since they didn't get the D tackle they wanted. But got to figure that one out. Ravens take a hit on that one, and it's just enough for me to put the Saints above them, who Emmanuel Sanders finally got Michael Thomas some help. That's a match made in heaven. I love their wide receiver room. Yeah,
definitely. And with Jared Cook at tight end, I like that too with the Saints. He's a good tight end for them. Yeah, I think the Brockers, man, you just don't really hear about that happening where a player says he's going to sign and it falls through. He's a really good DN that I think with Calais Campbell would have been really scary.
It would have been good
on that defensive line. But
I don't think the Ravens are in the market for Clowney anymore.
Yeah.
Like I think, some people might get excited. Oh, we don't outside Michael Brockers anymore. Maybe we'll get Clowney. But I think Everson Griffin or Clay Matthews might be in the mix, and then maybe they shift their draft philosophy. Maybe move some pieces around. But right now, we're talking, D tackles that have never played 16 games starting for the Ravens.
Yeah, definitely. You want to go 2-1?
2-1. So, I got the 49ers and the Chiefs at 2-1. I think not just because they were in the Super Bowl, but, I do think that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan do need to wake up a little bit. Seems like they've been napping. Maybe they're in quarantine this off season, so just sort of maybe they got to get out of stay in isolation. Do keep social distancing yourself. We support that. But I think they've been a little bit asleep when it comes to free agency. So they paid who they got to pay, but they've yet to make a splash. So I would love to see them, potentially try to make an aggressive trade for a wideout. I think they're looking to get draft capital, so I don't think it's likely. But they've got so much D-line depth. Maybe they trade a D-lineman for a wideout. There's so much depth on this roster at running back, and so much depth on this roster at linebacker and D-line. I think they've got a chance that maybe they could trade for a wideout. But Deebo Samuel as the number one, I mean, there's not much left after that. I mean, Marquise Goodwin's on there, but their wide receiver room needs some help.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I wanted to make this a little bit interesting. So my number 2 is the Seattle Seahawks, and my number 1 is the Chiefs. Yep. It just seems like Russell Wilson just gets better with age. Like, the one thing I love about him is when he feels pressure, if you watch him play, he doesn't automatically take his head down and go for the run. He keeps his eyes down the field. And with a weapon like DK Metcalf right now, who was he, like 6'4", man, he's going to have some fun with him this year. They've worked on building that. Yeah, they've worked on and they've worked on giving him an offensive line finally this year. You give Russell Wilson an offensive line, I think the possibilities are pretty good for Seattle this year to have a very successful season.
Yeah, I think they definitely got a chance. Number 2, interesting. And the Chiefs, of course, reigning champions. I think that team's set for years until they finally got to pay their star quarterback. But I think once they have to pay their star quarterback, I think they'll sort of start to fade in and out of stardom, sort of like the Green Bay Packers. But they got 2-3 good years to really ride high with Mahomes and maybe win back to back. So Kansas City Chiefs definitely at 1 for me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, solid list all around, I think.
Yeah, interesting choices. I think my list is more accurate, but good power rankings there.
Hey, you gotta take. Hey, we got to do one hot take before I leave. I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's your hot take? For the hot takes, get this on camera. Whoever predicts a hot take right, the other person has to agree. Like, okay, that's a hot take. But when you take a hot take, if you get it right during the season, the other person owes that individual a family-sized bag of hot Doritos.
Family size. Big bag.
Big bag.
Family size.
Or the biggest you can find in Wegmans or whatever, Or like a 2 for $5 deal in Sam's Club or something like that, depending on the circumstances. Yeah. So, Christian, you have a hot take for this week that you want to share?
Oh man, I'm trying to think of one that sort of came to mind. What do you got first, and then I'll think of some of the ones that have been.
All right. So I gave you my power rankings list. I'm sticking by that. But my hot take for this year is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win the NFC South with a 12-4 or better record.
Okay, you're hopping on the hype train that all of us are on. I like that. Well, I mean, I don't know if that's too hot of a take, but I would get you. I'd love to see it happen. So I'd get you some hot if it happened. Here's a hot take, and I truly do believe this because I just love to see what's going on in New England. Just because Bill Belichick is such an interesting coach and GM. I think Jared Stidham will start week 1 through week 17 for the New England Patriots.
Oh, yeah, that's a hot take. I think they will give
Jared Stidham a long leash, and I think that Jared Stidham will throw for over 4,000 yards.
Over 4,000 yards
of the New England Patriots.
Wow. Okay. I mean, you had me in starting week 1 through 17, but throwing 4,000 yards. I will buy you 2 bags of Doritos if that happens. I will buy you 2. I'll buy you
2 bags.
2 bags because
All right,
that
we
is
got that on the record. 2 bags.
Yep, 2 bags.
All right,
Mm.
2 bags for 4,000 yards
Yeah.
and starting weeks 1 through
But
17.
if none of those,
Barring injury.
if those don't happen, like it can't just be one. It has to be both. It can't just be one.
All right, both. All right, we'll see. We'll see both happen. All right. So yeah, I think that'll conclude our episode of Turn It Down for today. But as always, it's been a pleasure. Love talking sports with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we'd love to interact with our fans. Our supporters.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got
comment
any
and subscribe.
comments, suggestions, subscribe. You can subscribe right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Drop a mailbag question in the comments.
Yeah.
If you maybe next week we'll do a little mailbag.
If
any
you leave
team,
a comment,
ask us our thoughts and
mm-hmm.
leave a comment. Drop us a mailbag question below, and your question just might get featured.
Yeah. Let me know what you think about this. If someone drops a comment on today's show, maybe we do a random drawing for a feature on the show next week. Little segment.
Maybe we do a random drawing for a feature on the show next week.
We'll see. There's only one way to find out. Comment what you think about the show on any of the takes today. We'll start a little discussion. We're on our computers all the time. We'll respond.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in to Turn It Down.
Time to turn off, turn it down.
Turn it down. All right.